All right. Welcome back to our podcast, Eligible In, where we feature eligible guests that you can date. My name is Devin, and I am your host. Today, we are so excited to introduce Riley. Just a quick note, as always, if you enjoy the conversation, please give us a follow on social media and be sure to subscribe to us on your preferred podcast platform so that you're notified when new episodes drop. So, Riley, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? What brought you to Chicago? That sort of thing.
Yeah. I was born in Minneapolis, Minnesota, but moved to Chicago. My family did when I was 2 months old. So I've lived in Chicago pretty much my whole life. Suburbs for, most of the time growing up, and then went to Purdue, graduated Purdue in 2015 for actuarial science, and then moved back to Chicago downtown in 2015, and I've been downtown ever since on the north side, Lincoln Park, Lakeview, that sort of thing.
So fun. Do I see a dog in the background? I just got
You
so excited.
do.
Who is
Mac?
this?
It's Mac.
It's Golden, my favorite.
Yeah, he's a sweetheart.
What's his name again?
Mac, like MAC. I'm thinking I'll get a second dog at some point and name him Cheese, and then it'll be Mac and Cheese.
Uh, Match made in heaven. How old
Yeah,
is Mac?
he is 5 years old already.
Oh,
He was a COVID puppy, and I don't know
okay.
how 5 years has passed already.
Okay. I love when Goldens start getting a sugar face. It makes them look so distinguished.
Just in like this last year or so, he's really started to get gray.
Yeah, it always starts earlier than I think. My mom has a 3-year-old golden already starting to show a little bit. I'm like, "Oh my gosh.
They're the
No."
sweet. I love all dogs, but I'm very partial to Goldens. They're the best.
The best. The best. So you mentioned that you got your degree in actuary science. Is that what you do for work? And I guess what does that mean? Like what does a sort of like day-to-day look like?
Yeah, so the degree is actuarial science and applied statistics, and I do work as an actuary. I've been doing that for about 10 years. Day to day is a lot of Excel work, a lot of data analysis. The kind of canned answer I usually give is it's risk measurement and risk analysis. So I specifically work in the pension space. There are different kinds of actuaries, but I work in pensions, and we're trying to quantify the risk around pension benefits for employers, make sure that the plan has enough money to pay out to participants, and doing everything surrounding that. But it's an interesting career. I like it.
I'm picturing the movie Along Came Polly. Have
Yeah.
you ever seen that?
I have not actually. I need to, but I know it's
Okay.
like the only movie that there's like an actuary character in.
Yes. And he's like super risk averse. I think it's Ben Stiller or something. And then he comes
Yeah.
around.
I'm gonna add that to my list because I do need to see it.
Also been told that you spend your free time helping people in a super meaningful way. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So I got sober in June of 2020. A weird time for everyone, but especially a weird time for me. Drinking had become a problem for me, as it does for a lot of people, and um, got to a point where I felt like I needed to get sober with the help of family and friends and everything. So I went to treatment, and I haven't had a drink in 5 years, and that's been a really positive change in my life. And so I wanted to pass that along and kind of help other people. So I go to AA meetings regularly. I sponsor people in AA. Those are kind of the formal parts of what I do. In that, I feel like a solution was so freely given to me, and I need to pass that along to other people. But I also, outside of the program, speak to people that are currently in treatment about my story, and about what I've gone through, and what life has looked like 5, 6 years into sobriety now, because that's a lot different than probably what their life is looking like in treatment. And I really found a sense of like meaning and purpose through that I didn't have before, because it's a great way to help out people that I think are really in need.
What sort of reaction do you hear from people when you speak to them? Like, do you get really moving response that it changed their lives or it helps them to just hear about people who have totally, you know, changed the course of their lives in the for the better?
Yeah, it runs the gamut for sure. There are people who I will speak to and they just don't want to be there. They don't want to hear it, and that's fine, right? Like I went through that phase too, and I wasn't willing to, ask for help. So I never
Mhm.
judged anyone for that. But there were, some people who are kind of questioning it and like, okay, well, I got to make some changes, but also I'm not going to do the exact thing that you did. And then there are people who are kind of ready to buy in and are like, I need to make a change, and what you have sounds good. and tell me more about it. Some of those people I've continued relationships with, like after I speak. It's usually groups. It's a group of like 10 to 20 people that are in treatment, and some people are like, "Hey, I want to continue this conversation," and I show the meetings around Chicago and sponsor them in the program and continue that kind of relationship. But it's always what what they're looking for. I'm trying to provide help for people if they want it.
Mhm. And do you find that talking about it helps you too, not just the people you're talking to?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I do. I feel that talking to others in recovery and sobriety has helped me stay sober because at least as far as what the program, the stance of the program is that in order to stay sober, you should try and help others and pass along what was so freely given to you. And I found that to be true. Like I think it's through that like meaning and purpose aspect of it.
Mhm.
If I'm able to help other people, I feel better about, my life, and that will just continue me living on a prosperous.
Mhm. Do you has recovery or helping other people, either side of have those taught you anything about yourself that you maybe didn't know before?
Yeah, I mean, there's too many things to list. I should have come with a couple of prepared responses, but just off the top of my head, often, I mean, the biggest thing is just letting go of things you can't control. That's something I definitely struggled with in the past, and there are just things I can't control, whether it's as small as like somebody cuts you off in traffic. I can't control that they did that. I can't control if someone else is going to do that in 5 minutes. Focusing on that and getting upset about it is not going to do me any good.
Mhm.
That's in, like, the small context, but also in, like, the big context. My dad is, going through cancer treatment right now that's difficult. I'm sure everyone listening to this and you and everyone knows someone who's going through something like that. This is the first time I've known anyone that's going through cancer treatment, any, like, close family members.
Mhm.
So that's been kind of stressful and difficult. And one thing that's helped me with that is I don't have any control over like what's going to happen. And
Mhm.
kind of letting go of the outcome or letting go of wanting to control the outcome has been super helpful. That doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't mean I don't want to control the outcome. Of course I do, but realizing and accepting that I don't have any control over that has.
Yeah, and I mean, like you just mentioned, but it applies to things so broadly outside of, recovery too. So it's helpful when you can apply it to other areas of your life too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who has your sort of perspective on life changed since getting sober in any way?
I would say yes. I mean, just in the sense that I want to volunteer more and give back and do, I would say, expand my life, if that makes sense, just in the ways of like focusing on relationships with friends and family and trying to do good and live what is, what to me seems like a good life. My life beforehand was more focused on like, okay, I got to make the most amount of money and I got to advance my career and this and that. And like those are still priorities to a degree, sure, but those have taken much more of a backseat to just enjoying the like day-to-day portions of life.
So it sounds like maybe a more sort of like well-rounded outlook or perspective on life, like trying new things and refocusing and shifting perspective a little bit.
Yeah, and that's kinda come into play, like a health focus in other ways too. I started doing yoga, back in February of last year. I actually just hit 1 year of doing yoga 3 days ago. It was February 14th, Valentine's Day was the first day I did yoga, not, like, related to that, but, that's been super positive as well. It obviously pairs really well with, like, sobriety and mindfulness,
Mhm,
and taking a minute to sort of center yourself and ground yourself. I found a community at a yoga studio that is right close to me, made some friends there, and I feel like that has allowed me to take things slower on a day-to-day basis,
mhm.
but it has the added benefit of, like, I've lost, like, 15 pounds,
Wow.
and trying to, like, both the mental and the physical aspects I found.
Mhm. That's really cool. Do you find that it's tough to navigate the topic of sobriety with dates or romantic prospects? Like, do people tend to shy away from the topic, or do you find that there's a certain preconceived notion about addiction that you wanna change or correct in any way?
Yeah, it's interesting. I wish I had I wish I could come and be like, yeah, I've got it figured out and I know the right thing to do. I don't. Uh, Tried, telling people before a first date or like on the first date, or maybe I'll wait until a couple dates in, and like had mixed success with all of them. What I will say is I do appreciate, I feel like there's much less of a stigma around it even now than like 5 years ago, and
Mhm.
especially compared to 10, 20 years ago, like there was much more of a stigma around it. Seems like everyone, especially anyone in their 30s or 20s, has a pretty good sense of like, oh, if you got sober, that's great. Good for you. Like, I'm glad you're doing that.
Mhm.
And really a lack of judgment around it. So that's been great. But like, I never know when to broach the topic, especially a lot of like first dates are like, oh, let's grab drinks. And I'm trying to shy away from that. It doesn't bother me, but it's just like, I'm going to have a Diet Coke or like a lemon water or something.
Yeah.
And I don't want the date to feel uncomfortable either, right? Like if they want to have a drink, great, but also I don't want them to be like, oh, I'm drinking and he's not. So I'm still figuring that part out. That's for sure.
It does feel like generally, and I think it's more coming from like a younger generation too, that there seems to be more comfortability around sobriety and people who are sober curious and for no particular reason, even sometimes they just want to explore that life and see what life without drinking would be like. And so I do feel like, to your point, that's got to be getting easier more and more and more acceptable. I also think too, like on the topic of broaching the subject, I think the thing that is sometimes helpful with the apps is that, especially Hinge, I'm picturing that little, like, I don't know if you're on Hinge, but that little drinking icon that says, I do drink or I don't drink. And that way, somebody can see that right off the bat. And it's not, if it's not something that they vibe with or are interested in, they can just keep swiping, which could save you some of the headache from, having that conversation every time.
Yeah, no, definitely. I will say I don't get the sense that many people read that detailed into the profiles, and I'm guilty of that too. But often, I'll mention it. They go, "Oh, okay, that's cool," but not like, "Oh yeah, I saw in your profile," right?
Yeah.
But it definitely is helpful, and I've met a couple of people who are not like I consider myself an alcoholic. I mentioned I go to AA.
Hmm.
Many people who are like not alcoholics, but they just also don't drink now, and it's just more
Totally.
health conscious or focused.
Hmm.
And I think that's great. Like that's a really positive development.
Hmm.
But it is nice to see, and I think you can tell from, like, the pictures in people's profiles, like, "Hey, is going out and drinking, like, a big part of your lifestyle?"
Hmm.
It's so great, like, more power to you, but it's just not for me anymore, and, like, we might not necessarily vibe. Or
Hmm.
if you're more into doing, like, activities and dinners and events or staying in with a board game night with friends, whatever it is, that probably jives more with my current lifestyle.
Would you date somebody that drinks socially, or do you think that that would be too much of a lifestyle difference?
Yeah, totally. I mean, no issues with that. I have dated people since getting sober that do drink, and I would
Mhm.
just say it's not like a major part of their lifestyle, and it's not like multiple nights a week or anything like that. But no issues with.
Okay. Because I think I would think that that would be hard, but maybe sort of you've been sober now 5 years, maybe you feel like you get stronger every year where you're like, I could live with someone who drinks or I could date with somebody who drinks. But I just think that that would be like constant temptation.
Yeah, and you would I can totally see why you would think that. And I would have given a different answer when the first probably year or 18 months of sobriety for the exact reason
Yeah.
of like, hey, I don't want to take that risk. But I'm at a point where it's just not really like a want or a need or a question
Mhm.
anymore. I'm just like, I just don't drink, and that's fine for me.
That's awesome. That's so great. What are some you mentioned yoga, what are some other things you like to do, either Chicago specific activities or just things that you like to do for fun?
Yeah, I love to golf. I'm not great at it, but it is something I spend a lot of my summers doing. So that's most weekends in the summer. Love taking my dog out on walks. I live in Lincoln Park, kind of close to the lake. So we do a lot of lakefront walks or lakefront bike rides. We were just talking before this. Yesterday was like a nice spring day, and I took him on a bike ride on the lakefront. It's a lot of good exercise for him because he's a wild one. He's got a lot of energy.
Yeah.
Um, and so that tires him out a lot faster than it does me on a bike. But that and the yoga has been great. I do yoga typically 3 times a week. And pickleball has been another great kind of recent activity. And I'm in a pickleball league called Silly Pickles in Chicago, and have been slowly working my way up the ranks through that. I'm competitive probably more than it is good for me sometimes, but it's fun to have a challenge.
That's so fun. I joined a pickleball league last year for the same reason. It was just, like, so social and fun and such a new thing to just, like, pick up and learn and super accessible. Like, it's not something you need to come in at any particular athleticism or skill level.
Totally. I joined the league never having played before,
Yeah.
and everyone I've met has been so nice and welcoming. And then you just anytime you wanna play, you just find people to play with, and it's always a good time.
Mhm. I also love all the team names. It started to remind me of trivia. Everybody's just trying to, like, compete with each other for the
Yeah.
best clever team name.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have a favorite sort of, like, Chicago memory or Chicago day that's just ingrained in your mind? A quintessential Chicago day?
I do, I guess. Back in 2016, I had just moved downtown, and the Cubs were obviously going to the World Series, and I was living in Lakeview at the time. And I'm not a diehard Cubs fan by any stretch of the imagination, but like when they were doing well, I'm gonna watch the games. I'm gonna kind of watch the postseason, jump on the bandwagon. And had a bunch of friends who lived in Chicago, and so we got together for all the postseason games and watched those and ended up watching at a friend's place that's like 3 blocks from Wrigley for the World Series Game 7. And ended up, there was a rain delay that happened between, I think, the 10th and 11th inning or 11th and 12th inning. And we went and watched through a window on Waveland Avenue, like half a block from the stadium, because we knew like this was where they were going to win it. And then they won. We started watching on the TV through the window and just ran over to Wrigley Field, and it was just like pandemonium craziness for
So
like
fun.
4 hours afterwards, and I'll never.
That's awesome. Do you have an idea of it sounds like that you've been on some dates. Are any sort of standout in your mind of either great dates or not so great dates stand out for whatever reason?
Yeah. I will say the one that stands out, there was someone who I met and it was, I think, on Hinge. I talked for a little bit and decided to just do like a walk by the lake. This was in the summer. I don't remember when it was or how many years ago it was. But ended up finding out that she was sober too, but it wasn't on her profile. That's not to say, like we said, I have a specific need to date someone who's sober. But it was just nice to connect with someone about that. And they were newer in sobriety and talk about what we had learned. But I just really enjoy any dates where, like, the time kinda passes by and you don't realize all of a sudden it's 2 hours later.
Mhm. Totally. What if you're planning the date, what sort of things do you plan? What does that look like?
Yeah. I mean, I like to do either if there's a specific restaurant I've been meaning to try, that's a great excuse to head there for a date. But if it's nice out, definitely something outside, walking through the park or, like, going to mini golf at Diversity Driving Range. Just like an activity, that's something fun to do, I feel like is more fun and certainly more memorable than just like, "Hey, let's grab a drink at whatever bar nearby."
Mhm.
And then as things progress, just like learning more about their interests and their life, and kind of sharing more of my interests and my life with them too.
Really cool. What kind of person do you tend to gravitate toward?
I definitely gravitate towards somebody who's more extroverted just because I'm more introverted by nature. Like I can be outgoing and personable if I really try, but like I find it draining. And so I've, been in some relationships over the years and I've kind of looking back on it, I was like, yeah, the ones where the other person likes to be the center of attention or they're the one who's more talkative, who's more outgoing, like I'm happy to sit back and be kind of color commentary, if you will. But it's so that's one thing. The other is, like, certainly someone who is emotionally mature, emotionally in touch with, like, what they want and what they need, not anyone who's, trying to play games or manipulative or any of those things. I'm trying to come here with some emotional maturity, and I want and hope the same from however my partner ends up being.
So extroverted, emotionally mature, those are those are pretty good ones, I would say. Not asking for a lot.
Cute. I mean, that's I don't know if it goes without saying, but cute for sure.
Yeah, 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 I think that's important. We just want the physical attraction. What have you learned about relationships in terms of what makes them work? And I guess also what do you feel like you bring to the relationship?
Yeah. Um I think when thinking on this, I so my parents are still together. They've been together just over 40 years now. I think it's always really helpful to like have what looks like a healthy relationship or a good example of a healthy relationship. And I spend some time with them every year, like about a month over December and January. And so I really get to see them in their like day-to-day lives, not just over Thanksgiving or Christmas for a day or two, right? And I think what really has worked for them is they're a truly like an equal partnership in all senses of the term, where when I was growing up, I couldn't just ask dad, and if he said no, go ask mom, or vice versa. It was they were always connected and they were always aligned on stuff like that. There's always been shared finances. Not that that's a necessity for a successful relationship, but I think it's something I'd like. Yeah, I mean, it's important to communicate well. It's important to be honest with the other person about like what your wants are as well as what your needs and like what you feel like you're giving them. But I'm kind of rambling. That's a couple of things there.
Do you have siblings?
I have a sister.
Okay. Okay. So that was probably helpful that you both had this sort of like model of, a relationship to look up to.
Yeah, definitely. And she took a bit of a different life path. She is 2 years younger. She lives, I don't know if I should say, but she lives in the Midwest and she's got a husband and three little kids. So she, settled down immediately and wanted a family. And that's great, but it's certainly,
Well, that's cool. Then you get nephews, there's less pressure on you to have children.
yeah, well, it kind of feels like there's more pressure now, but it did take the pressure off for a while, for sure.
Temporarily then. What do you think that the work that you've done on yourself from a sobriety standpoint or like a mental wellness standpoint, and you talk about yoga, will make you a more sort of like grounded partner and more present?
Yeah. I really feel much more in touch with my emotions, and I think that's, like, super key to coming into a relationship. Like, I feel like you can't or at least it's really difficult to start a relationship if both people aren't coming to it from, like, a healthy standpoint with, like, their own emotions, right? Because otherwise you're gonna bring baggage into it, and everyone has baggage, but, primarily having that handled. And just, like, through journaling, through meditation, through working with others in the program, trying to volunteer, and the work I've done on myself as far as, like, figuring out what makes me tick, trying to understand, what are we call them character defects, the things I typically do that are probably less than ideal, and how can I try and work on those? All of that has helped to, I think, make me a better person and hopefully a better partner.
And you also talk sort of freely and from a more vulnerable space. Do you think that's important to you in a relationship and important that the other person would be similar and able to do the same?
Yeah, absolutely. I think being vulnerable is really the key to becoming close in a relationship. Like otherwise you don't know the true person. You don't know, their insides. So absolutely, that's certainly like an important part of what I think makes a relationship tick.
Mhm. And I think also too everybody has a sort of different love language. Is there a certain like a romantic gesture that you would look forward to or appreciate from a partner?
Yeah, I think mine too, if I had to choose two, it would be something that like shows that they're listening.
Mm.
Something where they're like, I mentioned something in passing, "Oh, I kinda want this new thing," not that it has to be a gift, or like, "Oh, I wanna go to this restaurant." And they, like, make a reservation at that restaurant or something like that, where it's just like a small thing that they caught on to, and it's like, yeah, they were really listening to what I was saying, even a moment where it wasn't, like, particularly impactful or meaningful or important, right? Stuff like that I always find really, really nice. And then too, physical touch is big for me. Cuddling, holding hands, stuff like that. I've learned that's like an important thing to me.
Mhm. When you sort of like picture your future with someone, what does that look like? What does that partnership look like? And what is that person like?
Yeah. I would say, it's two people getting to know each other, over a period of time, kind of learning each other and exploring life together. I would say traveling. I don't do a ton of travel right now, but I want to do more of it. And that's partially because if I travel solo, I got to find somebody to watch Mac, who has decided it's playtime right now. And, I kind of want to travel with him, but it's like, oh, I'd rather travel with a partner and explore somewhere that you have memories to share with them.
Mhm.
So that's something I'd like to do more of. But yeah, just building a life together. I hope whoever the person is, it'd be great if they love dogs because I love dogs, and just exploring Chicago, exploring life.
Mhm. Do you have any celebrity crushes?
When I was growing up, I saw this question. When I was growing up, it was definitely Keira Knightley. She was definitely one. It's more like the brunette kind of, almost like hard to get kind of girl.
Mhm.
I don't know if I have one right now. I'm not especially like a celebrity, I don't follow celebrity gossip.
Yep. Makes sense. I feel like Keira Knightley's a good one. So this is my favorite part of our podcasts. We like to come up with a fun game to play. So in this game, we're having a little fun with you being an actuary. So, meaning you literally calculate risk and probability for a living. But also, I would say in life and love, sometimes the biggest risks lead to big rewards. So, we're going to explore some different scenarios, and you have to weigh if the risk is worth the reward, and would you take it? So for each one, we'll go through a bunch of different scenarios. Tell us your initial gut reaction, and then you can explain the risk reward calculation to us, like the actuary you are.
I love it. Let's do it.
All right. So scenario one is you meet someone amazing, but they live in a different city 3 hours away. So the risk, long distance, complications, reward, it could be the right person. Do you take the risk?
I don't think I do there. My parents have encouraged me to be open to long distance relationships. I'd be open to long distance, like if it was already like an ongoing relationship and they had to move for whatever, right? But just starting a new relationship long distance, like it's so difficult.
Hmm.
There's plenty of people in Chicago. I think that's a
Stay
no for
local.
me.
Scenario two, someone you're interested in suggests a very adventurous first date, something way outside your comfort zone, like rock climbing or karaoke. The risk is, of course, embarrassment, awkwardness. The reward is a memorable experience, showing your game for new things, closeness. Do you take it?
I do. That's definitely worth doing. Would I be nervous leading up to it? Absolutely. But to me, if they're the one suggesting something that's way outside my comfort zone, that says to me that they're not going to be like judging me for looking stupid or, anything like that. Who knows? It could be great and it could be like the first date you look back on. So absolutely.
Love that answer. Scenario three, you have strong feelings for a close friend. The risk is, of course, potentially ruining the friendship or rejection. The reward is the relationship that you've always wanted.
Yeah. I mean, I can say I'd take the risk because I have before. And it doesn't always work out, but I'd rather look back and, regret how it turned out. But I'd rather that over looking back and be like, who knows? Maybe it could have been the right thing. And like, was it a lot awkward? Sure. But both they and I were.
Mhm. You are newly dating someone that you like and have been invited to bring a guest to a friend's wedding. Do you invite this new person to the wedding? The risk, of course, is scaring them off or forcing something too soon. The reward is fun and potentially even clarity on the relationship.
Yeah,
Do you
I think
invite
that's a great next step. It depends on where you are and how long you've been seeing each other. But I think that's a really telling, like how you handle a weekend together or a trip together. I think can be really telling about like how you'll work as a couple. So yeah, absolutely invite and see where they're at.
Yeah, and how they fit in with your friends and family too, if they vibe. The next one is you are casually dating two very promising people. One of them wants to be exclusive. The risk is, of course, making a premature choice without all the info. The reward is committing to yourself to someone who is potentially serious about a future with you.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, it depends on the two girls, the two individuals, like how I feel about one versus how I feel about the other. But I mean, I am looking for like a relationship. I'm looking for commitment ultimately, not like immediately, but that's the end goal here, right? So I guess I would say, if I really thought that could be something serious, then yeah, go.
The next one is you meet someone who seems perfect on paper, but there's no immediate spark. Your friend tells you to give it 3 dates. Do you risk wasting time if there's really nothing there or gaining, clarity? Like sometimes the attraction can build over time.
Yeah, I think it's worth giving a couple of dates, like 2, 3, 4 dates, something like that, and just seeing, like, chemistry can evolve over time, even if it's not there immediately.
Mhm.
I've been on the other side of that a good handful of times where they say, "Hey, you're really great. I love everything about you. Seems like you've got everything together. I'm so happy that you're so," like, list like 10 things like you're amazing. It's like, there's just no chemistry. And I'm like, yeah, but like, let's give it a little bit of time, right? Not everything is a storybook love at first sight
Mhm.
relationship. So certainly willing to give it a couple. If it's not there after 2 or 3 dates, yeah, move on.
Okay. Someone that you're seriously dating wants to meet your family and close friends after just a month. Do you risk moving too fast and pressure from outside opinions before you've really formed your own? Or do you go with it and see how they fit into your life?
Yeah, that's meeting family after just a month is a little too fast for me. That's gonna be a no, just because you don't know how they're, if I'm bringing someone to meet my parents or other family members, like, I want to be somewhat serious with them, and I just don't see it
Mhm.
being that serious after a month, so maybe let's hit the brakes on that a little bit.
Yep. Makes sense. You have the opportunity to plan a big romantic gesture for someone you've been seeing for a few months. Do you risk coming on too strong and misreading potentially where they're at? Or do you show them how much you care and create a memorable moment?
No, absolutely. Show them how much you care. If you've been together with someone for a couple of months, you obviously, I would assume exclusive at that point and dating and seeing each other exclusively. And I think, shows of how much you care are important and can help a relationship grow. So yeah.
I like it. Okay, one last question. Someone suggests taking a weekend trip together after dating for a few weeks. Do you risk spending a lot of time together, which might reveal incompatibilities? Or do you go for it and consider, quality time, adventure, deepening the connection and all the potential rewards?
Yeah, I would say, I'm typically like, why not? Like it'll, if it's not meant to be, that'll certainly bring it out sooner. And if it is, that's, that lets even more. Just would also want it to be something I'd want to be doing anyway, not necessarily like a trip to a convention I want nothing to do with it. I'm just going.
Hmm. Well, thank you for playing our little game of Risk.
Yeah, it
Um,
was great. I loved it.
Hope it didn't remind you too much of work.
No, absolutely. Trust me, what I do at work is nowhere near as fun as that.
Before we close out, is there anything else that you want our listeners to know that we didn't touch on?
I mean, I can't think of anything. I'm looking for the right person, and I hope this finds them. Yeah,
Do we want to show everybody Mac?
sure. Mac,
Can we call him in?
come here. Come on.
There he is. Oh, what a cutie.
Get this little bandana on.
He looks like such a love. Goldens are the best. Well, thank you again. And then just a note to our listeners, a reminder to check us out on EligibleIn.com. And you can also email us at hello@EligibleIn.com if you want to be our next guest or if you would like to nominate somebody that you know to be a guest. We would love to have you on.
Thanks for listening to Eligible In, a production of Eligible In Media. Our theme song is by Monster Rally. If you see someone you like on our show, or if you would like to nominate yourself or someone you love to be interviewed by us, please visit us at EligibleIn.com for more information, including a link to subscribe to our newsletter, where you can stay up to date on our newest episodes, as well as exclusive features of our eligible people.
Lovely you.